So yeah, let's get into this movie.
Secret of KELLS.
Tucci, had you seen this movie before?
Oh yeah, it was great then. It's great now.
Yep.
I don't remember when I did, but I remember doing it.
Yeah, it's been on Netflix forever, and it still is.
Yeah. That's how I originally watched it, was on Netflix, and then I watched it again on Netflix, and then I just watched it today on Netflix.
Yeah. Which is kind of insane.
Yeah.
It is a Belgian, French, Irish movie. There's so many production companies getting their finger in this pie in the opening credits that you're like, I don't know. But there's like so many people, so many different groups from so many different countries work towards this movie. But it's, you look at it, it fundamentally looks like an Irish piece because it's set in old ass Ireland and it's about Ireland and Irish myth and Christianity in Ireland is super cool. If you don't know about this movie, it's historical fiction. Yeah. With a high fantasy twist. The Book of Kells is an actual illuminated manuscript of the Gospels. I looked up some images from, the Book of Kells. It's fucking insane.
Yeah, it really is.
It's gorgeous.
Because this is the thing about art. Artistic drive can never be stifled. If you try to stifle it entirely, you get a footloose scenario and it becomes inherently rebellious. But if you only allow art through certain channels, you'll often see art do wonderful things through those channels. And that was the case with illuminated manuscripts in the Middle Ages. That this was the only place people were allowed to draw and paint and stuff. And they were all painting, from the same topic well of, Christianity, especially the New Testament. Almost exclusively the New Testament, really. But they did amazing, beautiful things. People became monks because they wanted to be artists.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because joining monasteries was the only way to get any kind of education. It was how you learned to read, how you learned to write, how you learned to do anything. Because, nobody was gonna fucking teach you that shit. Because nobody knew, because they had to frickin' learn how to put, metal on horses' feet without dying. Horses kick hard. How do you do that?
And they had to figure out how to put leeches on every square inch of a person's body.
Without them dying. They didn't get that down.
That's the thing about in Middle Ages, Europe forgot everything it knew. Literally everything. It purposely threw it all in the garbage and, completely sucked.
But yeah,
for hundreds of years.
For a lot of history, if you were an artist and wanted to, not only wanted to learn, but also wanted to make any kind of money doing it, even if you weren't in a monastery, you painted religious stuff for people. You either painted rich people's portraits or you painted Jesus for rich people.
This film was the first one by Cartoon Saloon, which we talk about a lot on our show because this really put them on the map, and everything they've done is always worth looking at.
Yeah, they have since done Song of the Sea, which that hasn't yet really been widely released in America yet.
I don't know, maybe? It was the directorial debut of Tom Moore and Nora Toomey. They directed together and then produced by a bunch of people from across Europe. And the film itself, we mentioned it, but I'll just break it down even more. It's actually a very, very small story. And it's not a very long movie, actually. It's pretty short. But it's very dense, visually. And it's about this little boy, monk, who lives in a monastery. He's trying to learn illumination and the stuff that you learn in a monastery, but his uncle is super scared and obsessed with protecting their monastery from the Vikings. This was the time of what they called the Northmen, or Vikings, where they just...
I mean, it's as if the Vikings weren't equally as north as they were.
Yeah.
His uncle is the abbot of this monastery, which is KELLS.
Yeah. These Vikings are just going from town to town, doing what Vikings do, and it's pretty awful. And I really like how visually they're portrayed, because it's portrayed through the perspective of medieval Irish eyes, of them, literally as, monsters. Anyway.
Yeah, even, the way they're drawn, there's a lot of gentle shapes with the main characters, a lot of roundness. The Vikings are very square. They look kind of like Castle Crashers.
They look like Samurai Jack bad guys.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Samurai Jack going on just because they're both art styles are extremely angular and minimalist, and I eat it up. Everyone's hands in this movie, they're all drawn differently and they're all drawn great. The freaking old guy's hands, God, I love his hands. Fucking Willie Nelson over there, yeah, I'm down.
the influences for the film were not only, like, mythology and stuff like from Beowulf and things, but, The Thief and the Cobbler was also very influential, and you could kind of see that sort of very geometric shapes, ambitious animation. Ambitious, not just animation, but, like, setting for the animation. Also Disney's Mulan and Hayao Miyazaki, and their whole idea was to sort of do something like that, but with Irish art. And I've also seen a lot of comparisons to the works of UPA, which I also agree. They sort of pioneered.
Who dey?
UPA, and they weren't the only ones, but there was the American modernism in animation, which were the sort of like the introduction of like these very sort of abstract, modern, limited, yet very artistic looking character models and backgrounds and stuff. It was the sort of this beginning of like basic shapes and simple profiles in
Good character design.
animation. Good character design, which spread over to other fucking like Yugoslavia and other places, had their own studios that were influenced by that same movement. It was a very important movement for animation. This definitely reflects all of those different influences, as well as the influences of the actual illuminations as well. Like, the cool thing, one of the coolest things this film does, and sometimes it's kind of hard to wrap your brain around the first time you watch it, is that it uses medieval perspective.
Which was to
does.
say,
yes.
it's not.
The perspective is so
Yeah, it
whack in
doesn't
this
obey
movie,
the
but it's to
rules.
a really great effect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Perspective is one of the things they forgot in the Middle Ages.
Yeah. But, like, even at the same time, it's kind of like, I don't know.
There's an aesthetic quality to it that's very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And it's sort of like defying what's considered right or normal.
Yeah, it
like
came
how
from
you're
a time
supposed to draw a
period where
picture.
it was early enough in the history of art where, like, nobody had really come to the conclusion that, like, you know, realism is important. You know, what you're painting is important, not how believable it looks, because it's like, I guess their mindset must have been something akin to, like, I mean, I know it's a painting. It doesn't have to look, like, right. There was no concept of wrong. It was just like, yeah, draw this man bigger because he's more important, and put abs on that baby.
The baby fucking ripped! God damn! Yeah, maybe they thought realism was satanic.
I mean,
This.
I mean, that's a
A
little...
man made this, not God. It has to look fake.
I mean...
I wouldn't put it past him, but I'm probably making it up.
Maybe. I mean, there are some cultures where it's like, you don't want to try to mimic reality. You want to
Yeah, no.
depict it your own way. And, like, it makes sense to me. And honestly, I think it's kind of neat, because, like, once the Renaissance came around and they started creating all those fucking, like, window box machines to get the perfect perspective, and everything was perspective, and it's like, you gotta do this, art, it's not right, and it's like, I don't know.
The golden ratio!
Yeah, like, we've sort of, like, circled back from that now with, like, a lot of modern art and cartooning and expression and stuff, because it's like, no, I don't need to know where the foreground is.
I mean, the really, really basic stuff, yeah, you should, but, like, obviously, yeah, I think we found a nice middle ground, I think.
Yeah, I definitely think so. But yeah, so Brendan, you know, his uncle's putz, literally anyone in the monastery is allowed to do, all the other monks, all they can do is build this wall all day. They can't do
Keep
any
out
of
the
their other
Titans.
monk... Yeah, they can't do any of their other monk stuff. It's just building this wall. The other monks are like, why are we building a wall? That's not our job, but whatever. And it's not like the fear is unfounded, because Brendan, you know, is an orphan, was raised by his uncle. The Vikings just destroy everything. And one day, Brendan is talking with the other monks, who are a bunch of cool guys from all over the world, apparently. There's like an African monk, an Italian monk, a French monk, I don't know.
There was a Chinese monk.
A Chinese monk.
Who is apparently immortal.
And they start talking about the Book of Iona, which is this incredible project being worked on by Colm Killy, who is a real dude, like a saint, I believe. Columbia. Yeah, Saint Columba. You know, a real saint. Irish abbot, missionary, who sort of historically, he sort of pioneered the idea of illuminations, partly because, like, a lot of people were illiterate, and in, like, in trying to convert people, it was easy to, like, give them pictures and stuff. So in the context of the story, they're talking about this dude like he's, like, this legend, and they're like, how did he do all the things? And he was, like, close to heaven or whatever, and Brendan's just like, this is the coolest thing ever in my life because I'm a monk and I've never left this town in my life.
And the only pursuit I can ever conceive of is illumination.
Yeah.
It's the only thing to be.
Yeah, but of course his uncle is like, no, Brendan, it's stupid. Build a wall. Meh. Meh, meh, meh. But one day...
Well, that's an archetype I really like is, in Meteors, a guy who's obsessed with building a wall. That guy is always a maniac.
Yeah.
Walls don't work. I've played Bastion.
Walls don't work ever. But one day, Aiden shows up. What was his title? Brother Aiden. Just Brother Aiden. Who came from the island of Iona, escaped, has the book, and with him brings a world of wonder to little Brendan's life. He's this cool dude. He's a really rad dude.
He's got a cat.
He's got a cat.
He's got a cat named after an Irish poem about a cat.
Yeah, apparently it's the oldest poem in the Irish language.
Pangaban, I think.
Pangaban, and it's about a cat.
Yeah.
I have the translated lines of it.
Yeah, it's basically about a monk postulating how his pursuits are comparable to the cat's more simpler pursuits of like hunting basically. And shit. How they're both hunting for things. It's neat.
Neat. You know, Brendan becomes infatuated with Brother Aiden. Brother Aiden's like, you got the stuff, kid.
You can eat lightning and crap thunder. Basically, Brother Mickey.
Aiden's like, yeah, you can do that. I'll train you. It'll be great. There's this page. It's gonna be the best page. Okay? It's gotta be the best page. And you're gonna make it. And Brandon's like, what?
No pressure. It'll be great.
So he sends him off on a task to go into the forest to get these little oak tree nuts or berries or whatever.
And make ink.
To make some ink.
They aren't real, by the way. They have been used for centuries to make a specific kind of ink.
Yeah, black ink, not green, but whatever. Green is more pretty and fun.
Yeah, it's more in the aesthetic.
It's Irish. La la la.
Well, yeah, it's more within the aesthetic of the movie to make it be a color.
Yeah. So he goes to the forest for the first time in his life. The trees are beautiful. I love the trees. The forest is phenomenal. It's beautiful. And he meets a little spirit or fae or fairy or...
fairy.
Fairy or forest folk kind of person who appears to be like a young girl, but...
Named Ashlyn is the pronunciation the movie goes with. I looked it up. They're comparable to like Greek muses.
Yeah.
And the pronunciation is actually debated. Because it's spelled Aisling.
Yeah. And the word itself means dream. And it's actually a genre of poetry, of Irish poetry.
Yeah.
So.
Which, I mean, I think she spits some verses in the film. I guess that would be an example of it.
Yeah, I think I read that, like, one of the poems, the poem that she says in the very beginning, the thing about, like, I was a deer and I was the salmon and whatever, was part of an actual poem. I'm trying to see if I can find wherever I put that, but I'll get back to you.
There's an important salmon in Irish myth. She was probably talking about that. Salmon of knowledge.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's what that Douglas Adams book was based off of.
Oh, fuck, you're right. Ah, shit.
So he meets this girl who, this is also where you get some more Ghibli influence because she's like a wolf queen. It's very Mononoke.
She's a shapeshifter.
Yeah, she's a shapeshifter, and all the wolves are like, oh my god, listen to this guy. Oh, this is the biggest wolf.
This wolf is different. It's the best wolf.
Looks like Balto's mom.
I fucking love that movie, man. But, yeah, so she's all like, what are you doing in my forest? You need to get out of my forest before it gets dark. And, and he's like, I was just looking for this stuff to do so. She's like, those will give you wicked shits, dude. Don't eat those berries.
He's like, I'm not gonna eat them. I'm gonna make ink. She's like, what?
So they go on a little tour of the forest, which is just beautiful. It's basically a montage.
That's gorgeous.
They also stop by a resting place of Crom Cruick, a pagan.
A pagan deity.
Of Ireland. Which she says is a place of evil. Mm-hmm. We come back to that. He gets the berries and goes back, and he's like, and there's more montages of him like illuminating and getting real good at it. While his uncle, who's got a fucking killer silhouette.
Yeah, his uncle is huge. He's like the tallest person. One of the great thing about these, all the brothers is that they're all made to sort of fit into each other.
Yeah, they're like nesting dolls.
Yeah, they're like so cute. It looks
they're kind of like Pangea as well, because like they're all from these different places, and then you can smush all the continents back together.
Yeah, definitely. So, and he's like the tallest, and he's just like looms over everything.
He's very imposing. He's got a very brusque way of speaking.
Yeah.
Brendan. You must build the wall.
Brendan. I'm listening. Where have you been?
Oh!
I'm just like, God.
So Uncle's suspicious and upset, and meanwhile, he does his Brendan does his best to continue his studies anyway. One thing of note, just in general, is that all the Irish people have red hair in this film. All of them.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't notice
so
because why the hell not?
I don't know. Yeah. Because a lot of the people living in the Abbot aren't Christian or may not even be from the area. Like,
it's a lot of refugees.
It's a lot of refugees from Viking cities. A lot of pagans and Crom worshippers, as the uncle says. So it's all kinds of people, but the Irish ones always have red hair. So, Brendan's continuing on. He's really good. Like, he's really good at it.
He's got the touch.
He's got
the power!
But then we run into a snag, in that in order to progress farther in his training, he needs a special magnifying glass to help him see better to create those crazy details. And brother Aiden lost it.
A Viking stomped on
it. A Viking squished it.
Yeah, it's like was it the eye of Kelly?
Yeah, it was the eye of
Killy.
Which isn't a thing, apparently. A lot of, I read that a lot of the time periods of this stuff is all kind of smushed together. None of these things happened at the same time, historically, but who cares? It's fun. So, Brendan's like, I've seen that. It's the Eye of Crom. Crom's not real, though. I'm not I love that line he says to, Ashlyn, where it's like, oh, I don't believe in imaginary pagan god things, and he's talking to a fairy person, like...
That always happens in supernatural media, and it's the worst. Like, everybody in the story will have whatever, like, their suspension of disbelief will end at, like, literally only what they've seen. And it's like, somebody will bring up, like, a new thing, and then they'll be, like, talking to an alien and be like, but that's not real. Like, what, homie? No, all bets are off. Everything's real.
I mean, maybe it's because he's supposed to be a god, and, like, he's a Christian or whatever.
Maybe. Well, no, I mean, it's like, I don't know. Yeah.
Crom Cruick is an interesting figure. He's not a happy god. He's kind of he's a fertility god, but he's also sort of a violent god. He required a lot of sacrifices and so on and so forth. His worship was ended apparently by Saint Patrick, who's not in the story.
Is he at all related to the Crom from Conan?
Maybe, who knows?
Well, the word, Crom can mean bent, crooked, or stooped. Or maybe head. Or, I don't know. His name could mean a lot of different things. It could mean bloody, crooked one, crooked stack of corn, crooked one of the mound, bloody head, and head of the stack of corn, or head of the mound.
Head of the blood stack corn mound.
Which all sort of relate, because he's like a fertility god, but he's violent.
It's my favorite metal band.
Yeah. His depiction as a serpent is interesting. Like, I I didn't read anything that he's typically.
I did a
that
Goog.
way?
I'm doing a Goog image now, and a lot of these depictions are serpentine.
I mean, there's no. I mean, when you go that far back into a history of a culture that didn't really have a lot of written or visual stuff about them, it's all of it is mostly guesswork. That's why every prominent like Celtic name that you see, there's always like at least 3 different interpretations of what their name could mean, because like no one knows anything about a lot of pre-Christian pagan stuff, because obviously the Christians did their best to either stomp it out or chop and screw it in order to fit in the Bible somewhere. Like all of the Celtic myth I read today was chopped and screwed into fitting in with Judeo-Christian myth and stuff. Like it was all clearly based on a lot of pagan gods and stuff, but then like, oh, everyone was related to Noah. Everyone was a descendant of Noah. That's all anybody cared about. And then like all these people were, it was insane. But like the stuff that wasn't Judeo-Christian was pretty dope.
Yeah. Here's the thing. If the Noah story is real, everybody is a descendant of Noah. Everybody else died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the thing we have for imagery is there's apparently a decorated stone somewhere.
We don't even know. We don't even know if that's Crom, though. It just might
we don't
be.
know if it's. It might be Crom.
Is it one of the 12 standing stones at
Yeah. The only thing that I think the reason why the serpentine design appears is because he is associated with Saint Patrick, who's also associated with expelling the serpents, and he would be like the king of serpents, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just.
Do you know what Crom Cruick's design reminded me of?
The early mobile game Snake?
Super Paper Mario, of all things.
Yeah, kind of.
Especially the last level that was it was like all black and white line art.
Yeah, because he wasn't 3-dimensional.
No, the whole fight was 2-dimensional. He drew a circle around him which encased him.
Yeah.
And it said on the wiki article that underwater fight drew inspiration from Beowulf's battle with Grendel's mother. Side note, it's fucked up Grendel's mother doesn't get her own name. She's stronger than Grendel.
Yeah. But, like, the cool thing was, like, the world as thus far was very, like, round and geometric, and then Crom is, like, very square. And, like, it's in 2 dimensions as opposed to, like, even though the world outside has weird perspective, it's still 3-dimensional, whereas Crom's world is 2-dimensional. He can only go one way or the other way. Right?
And like, even the way that his like segments interact reminded me of Super Paper Mario.
Yeah.
Just like the jankiness of it.
He's not... he's almost like portrayed as a creature who's incapable of depth, even like depth of movement, which is why he's defeated. It's by a circle. Which, I mean, on the one hand is pretty cool, but also it's like, he killed all of Aisling's people.
Well, I mean, like, he clearly, like, I assume that the 2 dimensions was more like his prison, because, like, he did try to escape into the 3-dimensional world, and he didn't look very nice then. It was all he was like, he looked like Aku.
I mean, it's odd, because he's like a god, and they try to appease him, but, you know, he has more than one sleeping space. He rests in more than one nest.
I mean, it's probably more akin to, like, a portal to his world, and there are more than one.
Yeah, and he has more than one eye, because he's, like, the force of darkness, right? So I don't know, he was interesting.
Yeah, it was a wonderful set piece of the movie.
Yeah, it was gorgeous.
And
so he gets his eye.
He gets the eye, he goes back, and Kalex's like, now I'm gonna put you in a tower.
I'm gonna lock you in the tower like a princess.
Because I'm the good guy, clearly. Put you in the bottom, though, because I'm not climbing up there. That's my room!
Well, his room was already on the bottom.
Yeah. My room with this dope chalk drawing. You can't have this room. Brendan.
This room where you can't tell where the floor and the walls are? That's mine. It's my room.
You'll mess it up.
I can't fit my big, huge bed anywhere else.
So Panger's like, no! And Panger goes and finds Aisling. And she comes to help bust Brendan out. And she does, in a very, what seems roundabout, but upon further research, the creature that she's based off isn't allowed to, like, forcibly enter places.
Kind of like a vampire?
In a way. There's also the part that she's, like, in a Christian area,
Yeah.
That's very, like, not her.
Yeah, the line from the song is, "You must go where I cannot."
Yeah, like, she's definitely limited by this new faith and the new belief in a way.
So she turns Pangar into a ghost, and has Ghost Kitty do it.
Which apparently is a thing in Irish mythology where cats apparently have this magical ability to
Be ghosts.
be ghosts.
Because
Basically.
it's like, you look at the cat, like, how the fuck did you get up there, stupid cat? And like, you have to assume, I guess he turned into a ghosty and flew there.
Yeah.
Stupid dumb animal.
Yeah,
I hate you so fucking much. You cute piece of shit.
Apparently it was a Celtic belief that cats were capable of going to otherworldly realms that others
They
did
could
not
cast
enter.
Blink.
Yeah, and so she sings that rad song. The song is so rad. Which is it's half English, half Gaelic. Gaelic is what you call the traditional Irish language, right?
Think so.
Right? Or is it different?
I think contemporary Irish people will kind of colloquially just call it Irish.
Yeah, because there's modern Irish and then there's
Oldie
Irish. So I don't know if this is modern or oldie. It's probably modern. Anyway, she sings a song. It's basically the parts that aren't in English. She basically says the line about, "There's nothing in this life but mist, and we only live but for a short while," like what Brother Aiden was saying earlier in different parts of the film. This thing about mist, which has sort of like a double meaning in that, like, at first it can be like the mist is like mystery, like going out and exploring, uncovering. But then there's also the more negative side that it's just like a bunch of nothing or a bunch of the same and it's inescapable. So it's somewhere in between, I guess, is what life is. And mist also factors into like her as a fairy, like she appears in mist, she disappears in mist. It's like this very sort of kind of spiritual symbol in the film, I would say.
The Vikings invade. I guess real bad.
Yeah, the Vikings invade, and then it's just as terrible.
Guess what? The wall doesn't work.
Idiot.
Guess what?
They just break through the door. They just break through your shitty wood door.
Yeah, and it's horrific. It's very scary, the way that it's portrayed, and like the use of crows, and whenever the Vikings, it's always black, white, and red. All the green and orange and brown.
Looks like a metal album.
It's just black, white, and red, and just filled with crows. Which I suppose is,
Death
yeah,
symbolism.
It is. Which is apparently also associated with the goddess of war in Irish folklore, and the Norse god of death and battle, so there you go.
Yeah, because crows like to eat people who just die in a field. It's
yeah.
Like, hey, this guy's right here.
So a lot of people die. Like, there's that particularly horrific scene where they're climbing up the shitty steps to the tower.
Build better steps. That should have been like day one.
And the steps are shitty, and they collapse, and everybody falls into the fire that's, like, burning the steps, because they're made out of, like, sticks.
Yeah, it's like shitty scaffolding.
Yeah.
He never finalized them.
And the uncle's like, "Why did this happen?" And it's like,
He gets the very first thing that happens is like one flaming arrow like flies through the sky and just immediately gets him right in the fucking shoulder. It's like, geez, the odds. You have the worst luck.
Hubris!
Oh man. And then, yeah, a lot of people die. Some people are able to hide in the tower. Aiden and Brandon are stuck in the scriptorium because Uncle threw a tantrum and locked them in there earlier.
If you fucking like painting in a book so much, why don't you fucking do it all day? Smoke the whole pack! It's a very smoke the whole pack kind of thing.
But they managed to escape, the two of them, and leave. And then Brandon and Aiden see the uncle, like, he got shot with an arrow and then stabbed, and maybe shot again with another arrow?
Boromir style.
Yeah, and he was just, like, lying there, and it was like, "No, he's dead, we have to help him," and Aiden's like, "No, we have to run." So they get out of there.
Boy, the book is the most important thing.
And then it turns out he didn't die, somehow.
And he lived a sad life of regret, just, like, hating every day.
Yeah, like, decade. Like, he literally just spent, like, the next 2 decades or whatever sitting on top of his tower, never attempting to rebuild the monastery just with him and the one monk who chose to stay with him, who didn't die, but like, cause all the other brothers died in the church, cause it had a wooden door.
Whereas meanwhile, Brendan and Aiden were having like a Hakuna Matata montage.
Beautiful.
Very nice. Yeah.
I love whenever they did the triple screen thing.
The triptych.
Like, it just looked like...
so good.
It looked like panels of, like, paintings or...
Yeah, them living in the woods, just those two in Pangerbon.
Yeah.
And, learning how to illuminate. And we learn that he finishes the book.
Yep.
And he brings it back to KELLS. And he's like, this is the book of KELLS. It's no longer the book of Iona. Even though you don't fucking let me finish it here, but hey, you're dying. I'm not gonna bring it up.
Yeah, and he was like, I thought you were dead. I'm so happy you're not dead. Aiden died, but, he lived his full life.
Yeah, he was already old.
Yeah, he had that lovely scene where, like, the waves washed away his footprints from the shore, the beach. And Aiden, and, like, Brendan's all manly and attractive with his beard. And then the uncle's like, why? And then, oh, Brendan, yay. And then he looks at the book for the very first time, because the whole time Brendan's been like, just fucking look at the book and you get it, bro. And he's like, no, I'm not gonna do it.
The book's gay. I'm not gonna do it.
And he does. And the only page of the actual book that we see, because they keep talking about this book and, like, this book and this book and, like, it's gonna bring light to the darkness, and, like, if you don't know anything about this stuff, you're just like, what the like, the first time I'm watching the film, I'm like, what the fuck's in the book?
He just opens it up and it's Alfred E. Newman from Mad Magazine.
He smushes the pages together and says, what me worry?
Yeah.
And at the very end, they show you, and it wasn't really until I saw this scene that, like, everything kind of made sense for me, and then when I saw the film 2 times after that, retroactively, it kind of came together, and it was the very end scene. It's just this sort of abstract showcasing of one page of the book. It's called the Cairo page, which is literally just 2 letters, that take up an entire page.
That's what kind of book this was.
Was just amazing, and it's the actual, like, recreation of this page from the actual...
Yeah, it's all these super close-ups on details, and you're like, oh, this must be the whole book. And then it zooms out to show it's one fucking page.
Yeah, and 1 letter. 2 letters. It keeps zooming out, and you're like...
Remember when SpongeBob just wrote the word the? Like, it's nothing.
Yeah.
He's a clown.
And the thing that, like, really resonated for me, it was, like, why they called it Illuminations. It's like, because they were able to animate this letter and all of the details that were inscripted, and, like, the whole idea of the film was, like, trying to imagine what it was like for these people where this was, like, all they had visually to stimulate them. And, it's kind of easy, like, for us, because we're constantly bombarded with visual stimuli. We're like, yeah, that's pretty impressive, and then we move on with our lives. But, like, for these people, this is all they had to look at, and they would look at it all day long. That's why it's so intricate.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's the same for other faiths and other art forms, like Arabic art, which is also very intricate. Why they did that, because, like, that's just all they had to do. Just one letter itself becomes animated. If you really stare at it, like, because that's all you have to stare at, and you're just staring at it and staring at it, it moves. It becomes,
because, like,
it comes
everything
to
is
life.
very, like, circular and geometric and, like, spinny looking, like, almost
It's
to
like
the
a
point
lot-
of an optical illusion.
Yeah, it's like almost tessellated and very, recursive and everything. And, like,
It's
the page right now is like, it's like 1,000 goddamn years old. It's faded as hell, but you can still tell it's, like, you zoom in. You have to zoom in because there's so much insane detail on what was probably like a little bit bigger than 8.5 by 11.
Yeah. No, smaller, I think.
Maybe even smaller.
Like, there's a face in there. There's
There's
a squirrel.
That's a kooky face.
That's a rat, I think.
Yeah,
You need a magnifying glass to see all this stuff, and it's like fucking molecular structure. It's like you keep going, and there's still more. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, like, the Book of KELLS, well, this is, like, if you look at the book of Kells, like if you Google search, you'll see a lot of pages like that, which, I mean, nothing really compares to the Cairo page, but there's so much crazy stuff in there. My favorite page is Virgin and Child. It's the oldest extant image of the Virgin Mary in a Western manuscript. And in it, Jesus looks like an evil puppet.
Yeah. I mean, like we said earlier, they didn't really care about depicting reality as it existed. They were trying to depict the impression of what it felt like to be living in the world, or be living in the heavens, rather. Like, they were trying to recreate the heavens by looking at the earth.
And this was first and foremost a picture book, really, because I also read up on the text itself, and they didn't really give a shit about the words in it. It was 100% aesthetic comes first. There's parts where, like, oh shit, like, I'm out of room here, and then they'll just, like, write they'll write the second half of a line they couldn't fit on the page, like, above the line it was on. Like, no, it didn't matter. No, fuck it. The person reading from this book was a priest that knew the shit anyway. They just read it from memory while they, like, opened the book for mass. Like, it didn't matter at all. There's errors. As long as it looked good, the text doesn't matter.
Yeah, like, this is levels of detail I don't think I've ever seen before. Especially not on a scale this, like, on a canvas this small, as it were.
And the reason why it was,
And here's the thing, everybody knew the stories of it's the Gospels.
Well, that's the thing.
People
didn't know how to read.
That's right.
That's why they drew pictures, because people couldn't read. So they're like, how do we share these stories? Like, and Colum Kili, like, Saint Columba, like, he and, like, his other monks that he worked with basically, like, designed this format of manuscript, the style of manuscript of these early insular gospels, and it was, like, designed for the ease of pagan conversion. Because it had this almost comprehensible, like, comic book-like format. Because it was mostly pictures, and pictures were the most important. And it wasn't just about telling the stories, it was about conveying the glory of God, so to speak, of the glory of the heavens. People were supposed to look at these swirls and be like, oh my god, like, there's something sacred about this. Angels are real, or whatever. It was more about the way it made you feel than it was about what it was saying to you.
Yeah, and also, like, nobody knew, like, common people didn't know how this stuff was made. This art was, like, trade secret, so it's, like, a really lowly common person who doesn't even, like, know how to read, let alone how books are made, like, would look at this, like, glowing book and be like, well, God's real.
God cried it out.
How else?
Yeah, like,
this is God's yeah, I mean, you look at this shit. Listen, everything else at the time was permanently caked in shit. It looked like Gears of War all the time.
And then someone shows
there's
up
one piece of color, and everybody's like, what the fuck is this? This is so dope. Dude, come here. Oh, your legs don't work. I'll bring it over. Can I touch? Oh, I can't touch it. I'll describe it.
But you can't describe it. That's the whole point. It's supposed to, like, describe the indescribable. And in that way, it's very distinctly Catholic. In the sense that it's based in iconography, as opposed to, like, Protestantism, which is more about the words themselves and reading. And Catholicism, you didn't have to know most people back then didn't read the Bible. They couldn't read it.
And they also didn't want them to read the Bible.
And they didn't want them to also, and that's a whole nother thing, but, like...
Hey, this book says you shouldn't be... Hey, Pope, this book says you shouldn't be doing literally everything you're doing.
It's phenomenal. And it's like, it was almost like ancient animation in a way, because... Yes, nothing was technically moving, but it was conveying movement. Like, it was... And that's sort of what that last sequence does, where it's actually making stuff move and swirl around and, like, taking it apart and, like, here's this part and here's that part and here's all this.
It looks kind of like one of those, like, penny arcade, like, rickety show things. Oh, but beautiful and not creepy. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, wow, what an amazing piece of art. And it took me an entire film to probably appreciate it. Because normally, since I'm so, like, overstuffed with visual media, I probably would have seen it and be like, wow, that's cool, and then moved on with my life unless I was, like, in class or something. Yeah, it's a phenomenal historical piece of art, but also the film is a phenomenal piece of art unto itself because it emulates a lot of the techniques of these traditional illumination books.
And where it can't emulate, it really captures it.
Yeah. Like, visually, there's so much going on, you don't even know where to look. And it like, kind of breaks the rules of, like, where your eye is supposed to go sometimes. And it doesn't always make it super obvious, because there's, like, so many things happening, and it's so fluid and colorful.
Like, everything in the foreground and the background and everything is vying for your attention. This film is nothing but rewatchable. The backgrounds, like, they make nature look like heavily constructed geometric patterns, and it's like the way the trees arch over each other as they stack in the forest, and like the way the vines have those perfect spiral ratios, and just every fucking thing. It's like, beautiful.
This film takes place in a religious monastery, but doesn't really talk about religion.
Nah.
But just the physical appearance of the world that they're portraying sort of emulates this idea of, like, God's brilliant design or whatever, because everything is, like, so perfect and amazing. And you're like, I guess this is what these people back then with this incredible faith, this is how they used to see things. And that's kind of neat, because, for me, I'm not very religious, and I live in the modern times, so sometimes I don't just, like, look at a tree and be like, it's so beautiful, but sometimes you should do that, and
yeah, there's that whole thing about how, like, the golden ratio being something of nature.
Yeah, because of snails or some shit. Like, here's what you do. Go outside, look at a tree, and cry. That's your homework.
Yeah, basically.
Smoke a joint. It'll probably help.
Yeah, this film is visually very loaded and busy, but it's not overwhelming, because it's also minimalistic at the same time, and the character designs are very inviting and very easy to look at, and you want to look at them, and they're round and cute, and it's just really pretty.
It's a pretty movie. You should watch it. You can watch it in, like, several places. It's on Hulu. It's on Netflix.
On Amazon, you might have to pay, but, like...
DVD. It's on Hulu for free, as opposed to Hulu you have to pay for, or Netflix you have to pay for. You can just watch it on Hulu for free, without having a Hulu account.
Go do that.
Yeah, you should do that. Like, really.
Tell us what you thought, because we appreciate you.
Or if you're Irish, like
yeah,
really
write in
Irish.
and tell us how wrong we are about stuff. We ask
not
people
like
to do that
Irish
all the
American,
time, and no
which
one
is
does.
like Irish American. That's like everybody except for us three. That's like
Yeah.
all the white people except for us.
Like,
three.
I was gonna say, I was like, man, if only Tooch was Irish, then this would be his time to shine as, like,
Yeah, nah.
the white dude, and it's like, no. I mean, like, I went to a St. Patrick's Day party among, like, a family that was actually very, like, they were American Irish, but they were also very connected to, like, their Irish side of the family, too. And they're asking us, like, oh, so do you have any family that's Irish? And we're like, no. And they're like, really? No one?
Really?
No.
We get around. I'm surprised.
Yeah, it's like, not even a little bit. No, nowhere in the UK. No.
I think maybe on my dad's side, maybe, but he's just kind of like a European mutt, so it's like probably, but also that it means nothing.
Yeah.
I'm way more Italian.
All
Also
of our
culturally.
ancestors... Yeah, culturally, definitely. All of our ancestors, even if you go back far enough, like even my mom's side, which is Latina, it's Italy. The same area of Italy, interestingly enough.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. Northern Italy.
I don't know where my ancestry goes. It stops in Brooklyn.
The music was great.
Oh, yeah, so good.
Don't skip those credits. Hulu's gonna try to make you watch something else.
Some bullshit.
Shut the fuck up, click on the window again, and listen to the whole credits, because the music is rad. The actor who plays Brother Aiden, who's also, like, an Irish scholar, like, the language, reads the Pangerbon poem out loud in the credits. And it's super rad. And then, like, there's the crate, like, Celtic music, and it's so cool.
This movie made me cry, and I wasn't expecting it, because it wasn't for the reasons movies usually make me cry. It was just, like, the ending, it was just so beautiful. That sad old man, God.
Yeah, and it's very bittersweet, but it feels like, the movie doesn't dwell on, like, how much this man has been suffering, because we're sort of on Brendan's side of, like, him finally seeing the world and sharing this beauty that he's working on. But it's kind of a tragedy, but it has
He
a
thought
happy
Brendan was
ending.
dead. They both thought each other was dead.
Yeah, it's a tragedy that just happens to have a happy ending. Kind of. I mean...
So Shakespeare.
Yeah.
It had a happier ending than Shakespeare's tragedy.
Yeah, definitely. Like, they got to see each other alive and be like, yeah, we did it. Full circle.
Yeah, they set out, they achieved their goals at the end of the day. Shakespeare tragedies are literally like, the people are literally like, I want to do this one thing, this one thing, let me do this one thing, I'm about to do this one thing. Nah, you and everyone are fucking dead before you can do that.
And it's because you suck so bad.
Yeah, it's your fault too, idiot.
Anywho, is there anything else we want to say?
No.
Nope. Okay.
Nah, it's great.